The veil was quieter now. Not still, never still, but breathing in long, measured inhales around us, as if it too had been left raw by what happened between us. The shadows curled around the chamber like fingers uncurled from a fist, loose but never quite letting go. I hadn't spoken since the kiss. Neither had he. Not really. We walked side by side through the twisting corridors of stone and soft light, our footfalls soundless on the black marble floor, the tension between us a live current that neither of us dared sever or acknowledge. It felt like speaking aloud might wake something, shatter the fragile edge we stood on. So I followed him in silence, even as questions clawed at the walls of my mind. What had changed? Everything, and not nearly enough. When we reached his quarters, I expected coldness, stone, iron, restraint. But the room breathed of velvet shadows and flickering hearthlight. The walls weren't bare, but lined with books bound in strange scripts. Charcoal sketches were pinned between daggers and relics, images of beasts, maps, fragments of old glyphs, and in the center of it all, his bed, carved obsidian and blackwood, draped in dark linen that looked too soft for the creature who slept in it. If he slept at all. "You brought me to your chambers," I said softly, breaking the silence like glass. He didn't turn around. "Would you rather I hadn't?" "No," I admitted, "but it's unlike you." That made him pause. Then he turned, eyes unreadable. "You've only seen the parts of me I allowed. And now?" He exhaled slowly, gaze sweeping across me like touch. "Now the veil is no longer a wall between us. It's inside you. That changes the terms." I stepped closer, something tight coiling in my gut. "Terms?" He didn't move. "You want truth, don't you?" I hesitated. "Yes." "Then see it." His fingers moved to the clasp of his coat, slow, deliberate, and unfastened it without ceremony. The heavy fabric slid from his shoulders and landed in a whisper against the stone. What remained was him, bare from the waist up, and gods. Scars. Not just one or two, but a map of violence carved into him. Across his ribs, his shoulders, his abdomen, like his body had been broken open and forced back together by rage alone. Some were thin and pale, others jagged. One, just above his heart, was dark and raised like a cruel sigil. My breath caught. Not from disgust. From the silence they screamed. I took a step toward him before I knew I was moving. He watched me, motionless, a predator awaiting judgment. But there was something else in his stillness, something vulnerable, even defiant in its stillness, as if daring me to look away. I didn't. Instead, I reached up, slowly, and traced the mark above his heart with my fingertips. He flinched, barely. "This one," I whispered. "What was it?" His throat worked like the words tasted bitter. "A branding." "By who?" He looked away. "Someone who thought they owned me." The air between us thickened. I let my palm rest over it, skin to scar, skin to truth. His voice was low. "They used it to remind me what I was worth." And what was that? His eyes met mine. Pain. Gods. It felt like my chest cracked open, not with pity, but fury, with recognition. I knew that feeling, Not in the same way, but close enough to bleed from it. They were wrong, I whispered. Were they? His voice was rough. Or did they just see clearly? I stepped in until our chests nearly brushed, my hand still over that scar. If they saw clearly, they wouldn't have tried to break you. You don't waste chains on something that isn't dangerous. His breath hitched. Nyra. It wasn't a warning. It was a plea. Or maybe a surrender. I should have pulled away, given him space, let him keep his secrets. But I couldn't. Not when he'd just handed me one. My palm still rested over his scar, but the distance between us had disappeared. His heat soaked into me. The scent of him, dark cedar and ash and something sharper beneath, threaded into my breath like smoke I couldn't cough up, couldn't bear to lose. He hadn't moved, not away, but not forward either. Frozen, like he was waiting for something to break. I didn't break. I let my hand fall lower, gliding along the ridges of his ribs where another scar cut horizontal beneath the lean muscle. It was older, jagged, less precise. Who did this one? A pause. My father. My stomach twisted. He did this to you. He trained me in his way. I lifted my gaze to his. You were a child. A flicker passed through his features, something almost human. That made it easier. Easier? I echoed, voice trembling. His jaw flexed. To mold something, it must be soft first. Gods, the cruelty wrapped in logic. I hated how coldly he said it. I hated more that I understood it. You think you're broken? I said. No, he replied. I know I'm shaped. There was silence again, but not the kind that pushed us apart. This one pulled tighter, made the air thicker, closer. Eric's looked down at me, his voice low and careful. Why are you still touching me? I blinked. My hand was still on his skin, tracing the shadows of his past. Because no one else ever should have marked you like this. Something behind his eyes splintered, a flicker of heat, or pain, or both. You think I need your sympathy? He asked, voice rough, yet quiet. No, I said. I think you need someone who sees the difference between the blade and the man it carved. His breath hitched, just once. Then very slowly, his hand rose, stopped just inches from my waist, waiting, tense, uncertain. I didn't pull back. I stepped into it, and his fingers finally touched my side, tentative at first, then tightening slightly as if anchoring himself to the moment. We stood like that, breathing the same dark air, my hand on his chest, his on my waist, neither of us moving, neither of us speaking. The firelight painted shadows across his face, catching in the planes of his jaw, the dark of his lashes, the slope of his lips. And gods, I couldn't stop staring at his mouth. You shouldn't look at me like that, he said. Like what? Like I'm anything but dangerous. My voice was a whisper. Maybe I want dangerous. He exhaled a breath that sounded like it had teeth. Careful, Nyra, he murmured. And the way he said my name, low, rough, reverent, sent a shiver down my spine. He leaned in, his forehead nearly brushing mine. The heat of him wrapped around me like a velvet noose, and I didn't know if I wanted to breathe him in or push him away. Maybe both. His thumb grazed the bare skin at my waist, just beneath the hem of my tunic. The smallest touch, but it felt like fire licking along my nerves. I don't know what this is between us, I breathed, but it doesn't feel like a choice. It's not, he said. Then finally, his lips ghosted over mine. Not quite a kiss, not yet. Just the promise of one. It was more intimate than if he had devoured me, more dangerous than any blade. And when he whispered against my mouth, it wasn't a command. It was a confession. I don't know how to want without destroying. I swallowed hard, then ruin me gently. He made a sound like a growl and a prayer all at once. And then he kissed me. His mouth crashed against mine with the weight of everything he'd withheld. Fury, hunger, restraint unraveled at the seams. There was nothing tentative now. His hand slid up my spine, anchoring me to him as his other gripped my hip like he was staking claim. The kiss wasn't soft. It was heat and edge and desperation, lips bruising, tongues clashing, breath stolen and stolen again. He kissed like a man who'd starved for touch and hated himself for craving it. I matched him because I had starved too, for this, for him. His fingers threaded into my hair, tilting my head as he deepened the kiss. God's, the way he kissed, like I was the battlefield and the balm, like he wanted to possess and purge me all at once. I broke first, gasping when his teeth scraped my lower lip, a warning stitched with desire. Too much? He rasped, forehead pressing to mine. No. I barely recognized my own voice. Not enough. His breath caught. Then his hand slid lower to the small of my back, pulling me flush against him. And I felt all of him. The iron heat of his arousal against my belly, the tremble in his control. My knees went weak, but he held me firm. I should stop, he murmured, but you won't. No, he said, I won't. He kissed me again, slower this time, more dangerous for the control it implied, like a blade drawn without striking. Every brush of his mouth made my pulse stutter. Every slide of his fingers against my spine left sparks trailing through my blood. When he pulled back, barely, his gaze burned through me. I've touched 1,000 skins, he said, voice gravel dark, but I've never wanted to memorize the way someone breathes. The confession cracked something open in me. And maybe that was the real danger. Not his hands, but his words. Not his kiss, but his truth. I curled my fingers into his tunic. Then learn me. He exhaled a sound that wasn't quite human, but then, slowly, with effort that trembled, he stepped back. The space between us was small. It felt like an ocean. I can't, he said, voice torn. Not yet. Something in me twisted. Disappointment, yes, but also respect. He hadn't stopped because he didn't want me. He'd stopped because I mattered. And that, God's help me, made me fall a little further. I didn't come to you for safety, I whispered. No, he said, stepping close again, but not touching. You came because your soul recognizes the same ruin in mine. His eyes held me, and still, I'd rather bleed than be the one to break you. Silence stretched, thick, loaded, intimate. Then I nodded once. Not broken, just not ready. He inclined his head in agreement, but close. We stood there, both breathing unevenly, both caught in something neither of us had a name for. And when he finally turned, the chill that swept in wasn't from the veil. It was from the absence of his body next to mine. But the heat he left behind, that burned long after he was gone.